Hey, my name's Ivan. I thought moving into my new house would finally bring peace after losing my wife. But peace never came. My daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eye and said, "You don't belong here anymore." She smiled while plotting to take the home I built with my own hands. Family dinners turned into silent battles. Respect turned into whispers. And when I finally saw what she'd done, how far she'd go, I realized the house wasn't all she wanted. It was me, gone for good. But you see, that's not how this story ends. I remember the heat on my neck that afternoon. The kind that sticks to your shirt, seeps into your bones. Birmingham heat. The kind my mama used to say could cook your thoughts if you let it. That was the day I handed my boy Daryl the keys to the house I built. Not just some starter home. No, this was a 2-story place with a wraparound porch, brick trim, and a yard big enough for grandbabies to run wild. Every nail, every plank, it was my goodbye to quiet dreams and my hello to legacy. I drained my pension, took that part-time job at the scrapyard, traded every quiet morning I had left to make this house real. I believed in legacy. A man's word and house is his honor. That's what I always said. My late wife, Eloise, her voice still echoes in my head. You don't build homes for thanks. You build them because you're supposed to. She was right. Still hurts though. That day, I even brought my cane, the one Lil Miles, my grandson, carved for me in shop class. Ain't nothing fancy, but his initials are in it, and it steadies me more than pride ever could. I stood in the front yard, keys in hand, heart thumping steady, thinking maybe, just maybe I was giving my boy a shot at more than I ever had. But then came the party. Folks milling about, music loud, smoke from the grill curling into the sky. I expected to feel something joy, pride, something warm. But the first sting came quiet. Zaria stood in the middle of the crowd, glass raised high, thanking her parents. "We couldn't have done it without y'all," she said, smiling. Not once did her eyes meet mine. I chuckled to myself. "Let the kids shine," I muttered. "Ain't about me." Later, I tried to find a seat at the main table, figured I'd rest my knees, maybe share a laugh. Zaria caught me halfway there. "Oh, we've got the garage set up with chairs. The big table's kinda full," she said like it was nothing. I nodded, walked slow, sat between a box of lawn tools and a cooler. Even then, I tried not to take it personal, but I heard it, whispered sharp like a blade, slicing through laughter. "Ain't that his house?" Neighbor lady. Didn't even turn to see who said it. I just rubbed the cane in my hand and swallowed something bitter. Left early, told Daryl I had a headache. Truth is, my heart did. I remember the months before that, the sweat on my back, choosing the grain of the wood, arguing with zoning officials. Nobody came by, not once, but I kept going, picturing that porch swing. I thought about warm evenings, Miles crawling into my lap, Zaria bringing out sweet tea, Daryl laughing loud like when he was little. That porch swing? Still empty. You don't expect gratitude. But erasure? That catches you off guard. Now it's present day. Locks have been changed. Furniture shifted. I came home one evening, noticed my chair gone. Replaced with one of those stiff, modern things that look pretty but don't feel like home. I didn't say nothing. Then came the gut punch. I heard her. Clear as day, standing in the hallway just beyond the kitchen. "That old man's just visiting till he gets a nursing home spot." She laughed. I stood there, didn't breathe. My fingers gripped the cane. My legs wanted to fold, but I didn't give her that. I walked out, quiet. And that's when the question came. Did I build a gift, or did I build my exile? Later, that week, I tried to talk to Daryl. Caught him before he ran off to work. "Son, can we talk about the house?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "You know Zaria handles all the house stuff. I just work. Just work." That porch swing creaked when I sat that night. Felt colder than it should have. The air had that stillness like it was holding its breath with me. I gripped the cane tight, let my voice barely slip out. Maybe I gave too much, and they took even more. I was coming back from my usual walk, nothing fancy, just around the block to get the blood moving and clear my head. When I got to the side door, the key didn't turn. I jiggled it a few times. Nothing. Figured I was tired, maybe using the wrong key. I checked again. Same result. The door creaked open from inside. Zaria stood there, holding a baby on one hip and looking at me like I was a stranger on her porch. "Oh, Daddy Ivan, we had the locks changed for safety. You know how the neighborhood's been lately," she said, flashing a smile too sweet to trust. "For safety," I repeated, nodding slow. "You tell Daryl?" She laughed lightly. "It was just a quick decision, nothing big. You can still come in through the garage." I didn't say a word, just stepped inside and let the door close behind me. That house used to smell like fresh lumber and sawdust. Now, it smelled like store-bought candles and lavender air freshener, like a showroom, not a home. I headed out back, where my old tool shed used to sit. It was gone, replaced by what looked like a guest suite. New windows, a little AC unit, paint still fresh. I stood there quiet, staring. No one had said a word. No one asked me. No one even told me where they moved my tools. Later, I found them dumped in a plastic bin, shoved beside the washing machine like they were junk. My workbench? Gone. My corner, the one space I built for myself, now held Zaria's brother's gaming setup. Wires, flashing lights, giant headphones, like my presence had been edited out. Daryl came home that evening. I tried to catch him in the kitchen, just him and me. "Son," I started, "can we talk?" He didn't stop moving. Grabbed a soda, looked at the TV. "Zaria got it handled, Pops." "That ain't what I asked." He sighed, like I was interrupting something. "Everything's good. Just relax, all right?" Then, he left the room. He didn't even look at me. I stood there, feeling the weight of that silence. When your own child looks at you like you're furniture, like you're part of the house but not the home, that's when you know eviction don't need paperwork. It starts with distance, then avoidance, then silence. Sunday came around and the house filled with voices. Zaria's family showed up, carrying food and wine like they were coming to a celebration. She led her mother through the hallway, pointing out paint colors, rugs, and lighting like she'd designed the place from scratch. "This is our property," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Took us some work, but we made it ours." I sat in the corner near the dining room archway, listening. She picked all the tile herself. Her mom bragged. "You got such a good eye, baby. Nobody looked my way, not even once." Then one of the grandkids ran through the living room and shouted, "Mom says we can't put stuff on her couch. Her couch." I don't know why that hit harder than the rest, but it did. It was like watching paint cover over a name on the wall. That night, I found my late wife's rocking chair shoved into the garage, the one she used to sit in when she watched the news, humming under her breath. I found it beside the recycling bins, dust on the armrest. When I asked Zaria, she said, "It didn't match the aesthetic." That word, aesthetic. I didn't argue, just waited until the house went still. Then, I moved it back inside, placed it right by the side window where the evening sun used to kiss her shoulders. I sat in it, didn't even rock, just Saturday. "You can own the deed," I whispered. "But you don't own the history." Next afternoon, I checked the mailbox. Mixed in with coupons and a church flyer was an envelope addressed to Zaria. No shared name, just hers. "Private banking statement," it read. Something about it made my gut twist, not fear, just a sense. I didn't open it, slipped it into the drawer where I keep old photos and extra keys. But I kept thinking, why does it feel like this house got more secrets than people? I looked over at the rocking chair. "If you can lie to a man's face in his own house," I muttered, "what else you hiding?" The morning sun came through the blinds slow and soft, but it didn't feel peaceful. My mind had been restless all night, circling that envelope like a hawk over prey. I'd put it in the drawer, told myself to leave it alone. A man's business is his own, I'd always said. I was raised on that. You don't snoop, You don't pry no matter how wrong things feel. But sometimes, the truth don't care about your manners. It finds its way out anyway. I fixed myself a cup of coffee, sat at the table, tried to shake off the heaviness pressing behind my eyes. That envelope sat on the counter, same as I left it. Only difference was, the flap looked different. A little torn at the edge. Maybe it was already like that. Maybe I did it without realizing. Maybe I wanted to. I stared for a long time before pulling it close. My thumb slipped under the paper, and before I could stop myself, it was open. Inside were pages from the bank official, cold and full of numbers that didn't belong to me. My name, right there in black ink, but I hadn't signed anything. Zaria's name was listed too, bold as brass, under financial proxy. I ain't no lawyer, but I know when something's been stolen, and this right here, this felt like theft with a signature. For a while, I didn't move. Just let my eyes trace the lines over and over. Then my breathing slowed, heavy and even. Rage came quiet. Not the kind that makes you shout, but the kind that makes your body still as stone. I walked outside, the morning air biting through the heat that hadn't settled yet. I walked the block once, then twice. My father's words came back, like they always did when life got hard. You teach folks how to treat you. And I wondered, had I taught them wrong? Had I taught them that my love meant permission, that silence meant surrender? Maybe I'd been too gentle, too patient, too forgiving. And in that forgiveness, they built themselves a throne. I didn't march in there demanding answers. Not yet. I decided to watch, to see how deep their comfort went now that they thought the old man was blind. By midday, I went through my own mail, checked every letter, every notice. Then I called the bank, used the account number on that paper. A woman picked up, her voice young and polite, too steady for bad news. "Yes, Mr. Carter," she said after a pause. "That account's active. The loan is a few weeks overdue." I swallowed hard. "Who signed the papers?" "Your name appears, sir, along with your proxy." "Proxy?" I asked, slow. "Yes, Mrs. Zaria Carter." That name hung between us like smoke. I thanked her, said nothing else, and set the phone down. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but fury. Zaria hadn't just crossed a line, she'd erased it. That evening, laughter spilled from the dining room. Zaria had company, her friends, loud and dressed like it was some celebration. She was serving food on Eloise's china, the ones I'd kept boxed since the funeral. When I saw them clinking glasses, I stood in the doorway for a moment, quiet. "Evening, Daddy Ivan," Zaria said, flashing that smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hope you don't mind us using these plates. Old folks like things calm, right?" The room laughed. I didn't. I walked past the table, nodded, and went to my room. Their laughter chased me down the hallway, like a mocking echo. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't lost anymore. I was clear. For the first time, I locked my door, sat down at my desk, pulled out an old notebook, started writing everything I knew. Dates, words, actions. The bank, the loan, the lies. Every mark of betrayal in black ink. When I finished, I wrote one line by itself. "She thinks I'm a weak old man." That's her first mistake. I caught my reflection in the window, the same face I'd seen every day for 70 years. But tonight, it looked different. Sharper. Ready. I stood, tightened my tie, and whispered, "You came for my house. Now I'm coming for your lies." Friday evening had a strange weight to it. The kind that don't come from weather or work, but from something you feel in your bones. I stood in my room, buttoning up the suit Eloise always laid out for church. Dark gray. Crisp. Clean. She said it made me look like I meant business, but still had a heart. I figured tonight needed both. Downstairs, the house buzzed with noise, Zaria laughing too loud, giving orders like a drill sergeant dressed in pearls. She moved through that space like a woman who believed she built it. Jerome trailed her like a shadow, quiet and unreachable. That used to be my son. Now, I couldn't tell where he stood. I sat at the dinner table surrounded by folks I used to call family. Food was good, sure, but it all tasted different when trust is gone. I rehearsed what I'd say the whole day, but now it felt like I didn't need to rehearse no more. I just needed to speak plain. After dessert, I put my fork down. Slow, careful. Let the quiet stretch just long enough to hush the room. Zarya, I started, voice steady. I know what you did. She blinked. Smiled that smile folks use when they think you're bluffing. I know about the second mortgage. I saw the papers. I spoke to the bank. Chairs creaked. Glasses stopped midair. I know you used my name. I know you signed it. And I know you never asked because you figured I was too old, too tired, or too polite to stop you. Nobody moved, not even Jerome. This house was built by my hands, my sweat, my years, brick by brick. You may be comfortable now, Zarya, but don't ever mistake my quiet for weakness. I paused, let it sink. I'm giving you one chance to fix this. Make it right, or this doesn't end quiet. For a beat, she didn't say a word. Then she laughed, out loud, like I'd told a joke. You think anybody's gonna believe a retired janitor over a certified project manager? She said, leaning back like she just won something. Come on, Daddy Ivan, don't be dramatic. She turned to the others. He's been watching too many crime shows, she added, raising her wineglass. Two old men with big imaginations. Laughter. Fake. Nervous. Jerome gave a half chuckle but kept his eyes on the table. I didn't respond, didn't argue, just nodded once and pushed back from the table. No yelling, no drama, just silence. But inside, I was done pretending. Back in my room, I sat still for a while, the air thick around me. My father used to say, "You don't need to shout to make a point. Let the truth be loud." That voice echoed through me now, louder than any of hers ever could. I looked over at the photo on my nightstand. The three of us, back when things were simple. When Jerome was just a boy, and Eloise still had breath in her body. That photo didn't deserve to sit in a house built on lies. I pulled out my notebook again. Added names, notes, details. Then I picked up the copy of that forged mortgage form, folded it into a clean envelope. I slid it into Jerome's gym bag by the door, tucked a note inside. Read this and ask yourself if this is what you stand for. I zipped it shut. No noise, no drama. She laughed at me tonight, but it won't be funny for long. Saturday came with quiet air, the kind that don't whisper peace, but caution. Since slipping that envelope into Jerome's gym bag, I hadn't heard a word, not a question, not a glance. Nothing changed. He still walked around like a man with blinders on, and Zarya? She acted like royalty, untouched, unbothered. And I began to wonder, did Jerome even read it? Or did she get to it first? I stood by the window that afternoon, watching the breeze sway the oak leaves. That same tree shaded the spot, out back where Eloise and I planted her favorite rose bush. That bush had roots now, deep ones. Thought maybe I'd try one last time to plant something honest before burning what's dead. So, I stepped out back, slow, deliberate, called out to Zarya, "Can we talk? Just you and me." She raised an eyebrow, then followed maybe out of curiosity, maybe just to gloat. We stood by the rose bush, sun warming our backs. No sound but wind and the soft creak of that old gate swinging in place. I kept my tone even. "Zarya, I'm offering you the last bit of grace I got left. Don't make me regret it." She gave a soft laugh, like she didn't take me serious. "Grace? Ivan, I think you're being a little dramatic." I stayed calm. "I know everything. The papers, the signature, the account, you know what you did. And you know what it cost." She shifted, crossed her arms, but didn't blink. "I think your age is catching up with you," she said. "You're misremembering. Or maybe imagining things?" I didn't interrupt. "Let's be honest," she continued. "You've never liked me being in charge. You hate that I make more than Jerome. You hate that I make decisions. She looked me straight in the face. Maybe it's time we talked about assisted living, Ivan. A place where folks can help. You sort out what's real. That one stung not because it sounded cruel, but because it was cold. Intentional. Designed to push me out quietly, like an old appliance too loud for a modern kitchen. I stared at her a long while, then spoke low. I built this house, Zaria. You trying to live in it while burning it down. Then I turned and walked away. Didn't slam no doors, didn't raise no voice. But inside, the match had been struck. Back in my room, I sat with the documents again. That signature she forged, it wasn't just ink. It was erasure. A way to delete me while using my name to stay comfortable. I stared at Eloise's photo. She'd never let this stand. I knew it in my bones. There was no anger in me anymore. Just clarity. Later that night, after the house fell quiet and only the old fridge hummed in the kitchen, I opened my laptop, wrote out everything: dates, names, transactions, forged papers, typed it clean, like a statement to the world, saved it, printed it, signed it. Then I slipped a flash drive into the side, copied the files, and pulled out the duct tape from my drawer. Underneath my desk, I taped the drive in place, one last line under my breath as I sealed it. You don't gotta shout when you're telling the truth. Just speak it to the right ears. The sun had just dipped below the tree line when I sat down in my study, light from the window fading slow. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of old wood shifting with temperature. I sat still, watching the screen of my laptop glow in the dark. That glow felt like a line between what I'd tolerated and what I was about to do. Zaria's laughter still echoed in my ears, sharp, rehearsed. And every word she threw at me out back, every twisted smile, clung to me like damp clothes after a storm. I could still hear her say, "Maybe it's time we talked about assisted living." That wasn't just insult, it was erasure. Pushed to the edge of the porch so she could shut the door behind me. My fingers moved across the keyboard, slow but sure. I pulled up the documents I'd scanned, opened the county portal, and began typing a lien request. I wasn't begging no more. This wasn't a plea. It was protection. It was mine. My name. My deed. I paused halfway through and leaned back, hearing my own breath louder than usual. Then I whispered it like prayer, or maybe warning. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. By midnight, the street was hushed, every porch light dimmed. I walked the 3 blocks to the courthouse, like a man on assignment. Not rushed, not hesitant, just rooted. A clerk worked the late shift young man, looked half asleep behind that glass. I slid the envelope across the counter. "Lien placement," I said. "Forgery suspected. I'm the legal owner." He squinted. "Gonna have to verify, might take a day or two." I nodded once, turned, and left. Outside, I didn't go home right away. Stopped at the church lot near 2nd and Mason, leaned against the brick wall, and let the sound of a late-night choir rehearsal bleed into the night. I didn't catch the lyrics, but the melody felt like memory. Like my daddy's voice, low and firm, saying, "Make your moves quiet, boy. The loud ones always get caught." Next morning, I was in the kitchen sipping coffee when I heard the first crash. Zaria stormed through the house, her heels pounding like hammers. She burst into my room, waving her phone like a sword. "Did you do this? You file something? My account's frozen. I can't even move my money." I didn't flinch. "I'm protecting what's mine," I said. "You cross lines I can't unsee." Malachi appeared behind her, mouth tight, shoulders stiff. Zaria spun on him. "You knew about this? You're just gonna let him sabotage everything we've built?" He didn't speak, didn't nod, just stood there, quiet as a wall. She looked at both of us like we'd conspired in secret, then stormed off again, yelling down the hallway. By afternoon, she was on the phone, non-stop lawyers, friends, neighbors. I overheard her telling someone, "He's confused, probably dementia. I'm trying to be patient, but he's making things impossible." Her mother dropped by too, clutching her purse like it held answers. "Why didn't you say it was getting this bad?" she asked. Zaria said without missing a beat, "Because I thought I could handle it." Malachi stayed mostly silent, pretending to scroll his phone, eyes not meeting mine. I didn't respond to their accusations. Didn't match energy with energy. Just sat on the porch with my cane. Eloise's cane, the one she had carved for me after my knee surgery. I ran my thumb along the grooves she'd made. Her words returned to me like wind through that rose bush. "You'll always know your worth. Just don't let 'em convince you otherwise." That night, long after the house went still, I heard the garage door creak open. I stepped quietly from my bed, moved to the back hallway, barefoot so the floorboards wouldn't groan. The tool area light flicked on. I saw movement, a figure, shadowed, moving around the drawers. Hands searching. I didn't yell. I reached for the flashlight sitting on the shelf, clicked it on once, then slowly flipped the porch light from the wall. Whoever it was paused mid-motion. I didn't need to see their face. Just whispered to myself, "You want war? War's what you'll have on my terms." It started with a text. Family meeting. Tonight, 8 p.m. Living room. Mandatory. No explanation. No tone. Just that. But I knew. I'd seen the way Zaria moved through the house all day, confident, rushed, fake friendly with folks in the yard, too many phone calls on speaker, walking past me like I was furniture. Something was coming, and it wasn't going to be gentle. By 8 o'clock, the living room was full. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Church friends of hers. Even our neighbors from 2 doors down. Folks came with casseroles and whispers. It looked more like a potluck than a talk. But once everyone was seated and the noise died down, Zaria stood up like a pastor about to give a sermon. "I appreciate y'all coming. This isn't easy, but it's necessary," she said, clasping her hands like a school principal. "We're reevaluating the household. Its management. Its future." She didn't look at me once. She gestured to Malachi, then to herself. "This home has evolved, and as the heads of this house, we've decided on a transition. Daddy Ivan," she paused to smile, "that performance smile, is no longer in a position to manage things. He'll remain with us, of course, as a guest." Guest. That word dropped like a hammer. A murmur moved through the room. Some eyebrows raised, others looked down at their laps. I sat there in my chair, arms crossed, eyes steady. My cane leaned against my leg. It was Eloise's too funny how a stick of wood can carry more dignity than the folks holding microphones. Zaria kept going. "I've taken on full responsibility for financial decisions. I stepped in to protect what my father built. There's been confusion, misunderstandings, some accusations." She pulled out the second mortgage document she'd forged. "But I did what I did to secure our family's future. And tonight, I ask for unity." Then she turned to me, still smiling. "We'd like to ask Daddy Ivan to hand over the remaining keys, utility accounts, and let us take care of things moving forward. There's even a guest suite ready for him. Private, comfortable, quiet." I heard a few folks shift in their chairs. One cousin whispered something to another. A neighbor coughed on purpose. The air was thick. I didn't move, didn't blink. Zaria handed me an envelope, sealed in red. "It's just a formality," she said sweetly. "Legal transfer of household management. You won't have to worry about a thing anymore." My fingers didn't touch the envelope. A younger cousin from Eloise's side, Nate, spoke up from the back. "Wait, what? You serious right now? This man built this house, brick by brick. And you talking about guest?" Zaria snapped without hesitation. "I'm trying to save peace, not invite drama." That's when I stood, slow, calm, my voice low but clear enough to cut through. "You don't save peace by killing the man you claim to love." The room went quiet. Somebody gasped. A drink clinked against glass. And Zaria, for the first time that evening, didn't have a comeback ready. Her eyes flashed, but her lips stayed still. Malachi looked at me, really looked, then at his wife. His jaw clenched, but he said nothing. I sat back down. The envelope still untouched in front of me. I never even opened it. Hours passed. Folks trickled out. I stayed in my room, quiet. Waited for night to swallow the noise. At 2:14 a.m., I got up to check the front door. Code didn't work. Tried the garage keypad. No response. Zaria had changed the security system. Locked me out of my own home while I was still inside it. I stood in front of the door, hand pressed flat against its cold steel. I could feel the screws I'd driven in myself 20 years ago, the weight of it, the wood I'd chosen, the frame I'd carved. I remembered every inch. They could change passwords, reprogram lights, hand out guest rooms like charity. But this house, it remembered me. They cut me out, I whispered, standing in the dark. But cutting me out doesn't kill what's in my blood. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful, just still in that heavy kind of way when everybody's waiting for the truth to slap the room. You could feel it in the walls, in the way the ceiling fan spun like it was counting down. No music, no chatter, just the pound, soft creak of floorboards, and the occasional cough from one of the uninvited cousins on the couch. Zaria moved through the kitchen like it was any other day, fixing drinks, straightening a vase that didn't need straightening. But I caught her peeking toward my door more than once, trying to read the air, measure the moment. Upstairs, Malachi's footsteps went back and forth like a man pacing between two lives. I sat at the end of the dining table with every piece of paper that mattered folded beneath the tablecloth. Legal documents, statements, audio files backed up and time-stamped. This was no gamble, it was a setup I'd been building for months. My hands were calm, but my chest was tight. Not from fear, from knowing what this moment meant. Tonight, I wouldn't just speak. I'd reclaim something bigger than dignity. When the last relative shuffled in, when the last cup was filled and placed on a coaster, I stood, didn't shout, didn't shake, just tapped the table twice. The sound echoed like a gavel. "Y'all mind if I say a few things?" I asked, voice low, but enough to quiet the room. They all turned toward me, some with curiosity, some with guilt already writing their faces. "I've been quiet a long time, too long, but I ain't dumb and I ain't soft. I just move different." I pulled out the first set of documents and handed them to Odell, my niece. "Pass these down. Every last one of y'all need to see what I've seen." She hesitated, glanced at Zaria, then took them. Envelopes moved from hand to hand, slow, as the truth always does. Some faces scrunched, others dropped their eyes. Nobody said a word. "Those," I said, "are the mortgage papers she forged. That's my name on lines I never signed. That's correspondence with the bank. Accounts frozen in my name, because someone tried to shut me out of my own house." Zaria stood, arms crossed. "That's not she started." I raised one hand. "I ain't finished." I pulled out a small speaker, hit play. Her voice filled the room clear, sharp, cold. "Once I get him out, it's ours. I just need the legal file to look clean." Her mother gasped. One uncle whispered, "Lord, have mercy." Malachi leaned back, blinking slow like he just got slapped by time. Zaria stammered, "That was out of context." "Don't," I said. "Don't insult everybody here with that. They heard it. You meant it." Silence stretched thick. Zaria's mother turned to me. "Why'd you wait, Ivan? Why not say something sooner?" I looked right at her. Because sometimes a man has to let the storm build before he throws the anchor. I spoke in sweat, in late nights triple-checking every file. I waited for the right moment when folks would actually listen. Whispers rose like steam. Heads nodded now. Shoulders turned away from her. Malachi stood, but didn't say a word. His face, God, that boy's face, was torn down the middle. And Zaria, she looked at him like a lifeline that was slipping fast. But he didn't move to save her. I stepped forward, voice steady. "I'm giving you one chance, Zaria. Tell the truth. Own what you did." She looked at me, then at Malachi. Her lips pressed tight. "Nothing. You erased my place," I said, voice raw. "Tonight, I carve it back with truth." I gathered the documents. nodded once, and walked out. No victory dance. Just the quiet kind of end you earn. Later that night, after the house had cleared out and silence crept back in, I changed the locks, updated every digital record, reset the codes. My name lit up again, where it always belonged. The front door clicked shut behind me, and I stood in the dark hallway, breathing in my house like it was mine again. She tapped her code. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. She stood there, hand on the knob, like it owed her something. I watched her. From inside. Didn't flinch. Didn't move. She'll have to knock to come back in. I woke before the Sunday. No alarm. No noise. Just my body knowing it was time. I fixed a cup of coffee the old way, boiled water, metal strainer, no machine noise, then stepped out to the porch. The air had a cool weight to it, like it hadn't made up its mind whether it wanted to warm up or stay in yesterday. Birds were already talking to each other in the trees, like they knew something the rest of us didn't. That silence, it used to feel like punishment. An empty kitchen, a quiet hallway, no one calling your name, it used to hurt. Now, it felt like peace, real peace, earned peace. There was a letter in the small wooden box I kept by the door, one I'd read many times before. Her handwriting smooth, clean. She wrote it the year before she passed. Keep walking, Ivan, even if nobody's following. You were never meant to blend in. I folded it slow, careful, like it might crumble, and placed it on the table beside me. I finished my coffee, grabbed the shovel leaning by the wall, and walked out to the front yard. The dirt still carried the scent of last night's rain. I dug until sweat started to bead behind my ears. Planted a young tree, nothing grand, just something that would grow roots and remind me life goes on. I patted the soil down, stepped back, and nodded. It was time for something new to take hold. The radio inside was playing gospel. Soft, scratchy, a little off-key, but honest. Just as I sat back down, there was a knock at the door. Not loud, hesitant. I opened it to find Malachi standing there. No Zaria. No words rehearsed. He looked at me with those eyes. Same ones I saw grow up under my roof, through scraped knees and late-night talks. I didn't see it, he said. I see it now. I stepped aside, motioned for him to come sit. He did. Both of us quiet for a while. I should have stood up, he said after some time. For you. You built everything. And I stayed quiet. I didn't rush to respond. I let the weight of his words settle between us. You knew better, I finally said. But knowing don't count if you don't do better. He nodded slowly, like each part of him was tired. What matters, I continued, is what you choose next. Saturday. No hug, no music swelled up behind us, just stillness. And that was enough. After he left, I cleaned up, pulled out my Sunday clothes. Black suit, white shirt, shoes I hadn't worn since the funeral. I walked to church slow, steady steps through the same streets I used to carry Malachi down on my shoulders. At the church door, folks stopped talking when they saw me. Some gave soft smiles. Others looked ashamed. One man shook my hand and said, "We were wrong." The pastor welcomed me with open arms. "Brother Ivan, would you like to say a few words?" I smiled. "No, sir. I'm just here to listen." He nodded, and I took my seat, gripping my wife's old Bible like it still had warmth from her hands. The choir started singing. I've been buked, and I've been scorned. I closed my eyes, felt the words move through my chest. And yet, I rise, I whispered to myself. After the service, I spoke with a young man from the youth center. He looked barely 30, worn out like life had been yelling at him since he was 15. "We've got young dads who could use your steadiness," the director said. "I ain't perfect," I told him, "but I'm still here." Later that afternoon, I talked to a young brother sitting outside the center, divorce papers in his lap, shame in his shoulders. I didn't try to fix him, just listened. Told him sometimes surviving is enough. Other times, you gotta rebuild. Evening came quiet again. When I got home, there was an envelope on the porch. No return address. Inside keys. A note. For everything I tried to take. Z. I stared at the paper. For a long time. No feeling of revenge. Just release. I walked to my study, opened the drawer, dropped the keys in, and locked it. Done. Sat at my desk and wrote in my journal. Legacy ain't about what you leave. It's about what you survive, what you keep showing up for. Night settled in. I stood in front of the fireplace, pulled out an old photo, me, my wife, the kids. Before the lies, before the cracks. I wiped the dust from the glass and placed it on the mantel. This house was mine again. Not because I fought for it, because I never let it stop being home. I didn't lose my house. I reclaimed my home.